We are live. Welcome, everyone. It's a glorious Thursday. It really is. Um, Bruce Lee said something very interesting. He says, "Be like water, my friend, be like water." But do we really know what that means? You see, when you put water into a cup or a glass or a vase, whatever, or a pool, whatever you put that water in, the water takes the shape of the thing, but it does not compromise who and what it is. Let's use the law of correspondence. As above, so below. Water is flexible, right? Water is flexible, which means in our daily lives, being flexible is a great thing, right? When we're flexible, you can take on any situation. The situation is going to be the container. You, on the other hand, whatever the situation is, it'll be there. You'll experience it, but you won't experience it through the lens of being rigid, which means we react, we freak out, we panic. Something. Water, on the other hand, when it takes on the shape of something, that's just because that thing is there. It's just because the thing is there. It's just because the experience is there, right? The cup is there. You fill it. The water doesn't change who and what it is. It doesn't change who and what it is. It remains the same. It just fills that space, right? I'm going to deal with that right there. Pardon me. Um, Water, a most simple thing. I'm going to, pardon me for just 1 second. I'm just going to move Joseph down to the audience for a moment. All right? That's just what I'll do for the moment. Just for the moment. When we allow ourselves to be like water, to be fluid, you understand, you can go into any situation. You can go into any situation. Using your reason, you can look at that situation, you assess it. Assess the situation. When you assess the situation, now you make your movements, your choices from the assessment. Because some situations that we find ourselves in, if we are not reasoning, we allow ourselves to become emotionally overwhelmed by the situation. Whereas being fluid, being able to see a situation, you look at it. Causation comes into play, the law of cause and effect. If you go into your mind and you say, okay, look, if I choose option A, this is going to happen. If I choose option B, that will happen. But what about option C? If I do that, that will happen. Being like water means you allow yourself to observe the situation. Because when you observe the situation, you act from the observation that is better suited. Because when you run off and you just jump right in, you already know how that's going to turn out. Cause and effect tells you that. Every cause has its effect, and every effect its cause. So when you say to yourself, all right, how am I going to be in this situation? Become what you need to be when you need to be it. Which means there's also a popular saying. They tell you to be like bamboo. Yes? You have to know when to bend as opposed to breaking. Flexibility is key. We gain our flexibility through observation. When you look at a situation that you're going through, you stop, you assess it, you stop, and you assess the situation. Because when you assess the situation based upon the desired outcome that you're looking for, then you know how to act. Then you've chosen, because some situations are calling for us to bend. Some situations are calling for us to bend. Why is bending perceived to be such a bad thing? It isn't. When you bend, you allow the situation to be what the situation is going to be. How do we bend? You must first identify the situation that you are in, the container. Are you in the vase? Are you in a cup? What? Because remember, it is you who is in the situation. You are the water in this situation. So when you name that situation, and now you assess the situation, you can decide what is the best course of action through your observation. A popular saying is, don't run off half-cocked. There's a reason. You cannot see if the eye is clouded or blinded by heightened emotion. So observe the situation, the container that you're in. Just observe it. And you'll see that you bend, which means you surrender. You don't fight the situation. But once you assess the situation, then you see what to become. You see how to act in the situation. This is what it means to be like water. You flow, but you become what you need to be right at that moment upon assessment. Instead of, think about it. What if you didn't need to become the avalanche or the tsunami? How would you know? When we observe situations, we see clearly how to act. Observation is a great strength to develop in one's self. It is a very great strength to develop. You observe. Observe doesn't just mean you look with the eyes, but you listen. You will learn a lot about a person when you observe them. It will save you a great deal of trouble. Remember, water. When you observe someone, you will know how to act. You will. You'll know what you can say. You'll know when to remain silent. You will know. For instance, something just transpired in this space, right? The reason I moved him down to the audience is because I spent time in observation, not just with my eyes, but with my ears. And I heard. And I knew what kind of person I was in the presence of. And that's why I chose to act in this manner. When you observe someone and you see that they're confrontational, right? Without having evidence, and you see that they're confrontational, why would you put yourself in that position? You be flexible like water. You do not put yourself in a position to be disparaged. You do not put yourself in a situation to be called out your name simply because you've observed. That goes for any relationship that we are in or that we have the potential to be in. Any relationship, whether it would be work. Observe your coworkers. If you know someone has a short temper, that is your cue to develop inner peace. Why? Because the container, the work environment, you are now the water. You're there. You've taken the shape of work, but you have not lost the essence of what you are. You are still the water in the shape of your work environment, but you do not allow the environment. When you put water in a glass, it is still gonna be H2O. Water better be H2O. You'll be the H2O, but in a glass. You maintain your integrity in spite of your surroundings. This is also what it means to be in the world, but not of it. Having the ability to be flexible, to bend when required, as opposed to letting our situations break us. But that takes observation. And to observe, one must close the mouth, open the eyes and the ears. Remember the law of correspondence. Whatever is within someone has to come out of them. So when you watch something come out of someone and you get a feel for it, you will know if you're dealing with honey, and then you'll bend accordingly. Or you'll know if you're dealing with venom, then you will bend accordingly. But if you don't give yourself time to A, know who you are, B, know, here's the thing. What does Lao Tzu say in The Art of War? I think it was in The Art of War. If you know yourself, you'll know your enemy. Why? Because you understand the nature of humanity itself. Sorry, pardon me. So today, being like water is the ability to be in any situation without losing who you are. Being like water allows you to be in any situation without losing who you are. This is why when you know who and what you are, you know how you're going to behave because you know you. But you see, because you know you and you know you'll behave based upon who you are, when you see someone else and you know how they behave, you know they'll behave the same way in whatever situation they're in because they're being authentic to who they are. Water is also showing you authenticity. It is also showing you how to be real and to be true unto your own convictions. Who are you? Who do you say that you are? Who do you say that you are? See, when you name who you say you are, I am ... When you say that, when you go into any situation, I can give you an example of my father especially. My father's a peaceful man, quite like his father was a peaceful man. So it didn't matter where he went to. He was always the peacemaker, whether by his words or his actions, but he was always the peacemaker. If he went into a situation and it was a little bit rowdy, that situation would calm itself. Don't ask me how, but we know how. He was just a peaceful person. Now, don't get it mixed up. When he needed to be stern, he was. But you see, the sternness that he would speak to right? The sternness, the attitude of sternness that he would take on would always bring a result of peace, because peace is what he was. So even if he had to say, not in here, even if he had to say, not today, he may be firm, but always from a place of peacefulness, because that is who he was. It didn't matter where he went to. People just respected him. He didn't have to say anything most of the time, but that's just the way he carried himself. He developed that because he saw the alternative. As a young lad, he saw the alternative and he made up his mind and he said, nope, here's what I'm going to be instead. He had no teacher to teach him anything, but he just determined in his heart what he would be, because when he saw something else, he's like, but that's just not good. That doesn't look right. So I won't do those things. So then I say to you today that one must know themselves. Who are you? How do you handle pressure? Do you lose your cool? Or do you stop when you're in any situation and you inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose, and you just breathe and listen? What are you? How do you behave? See, when you're being told to be like water, water knows what it is. It knows what it is. Not because they say it remembers things. Why would it remember things? Because it takes the shape. It remembers the shape of the thing that it has encountered. That's why it has a memory. So when you go somewhere, remember. Engage your memory. Think about this for a moment. What's the percentage of water in the human body? They say between 70 and 80%. Now do you see why we remember things? Because it leaves an impression in that water. It leaves an impression. So when something leaves an impression upon you, notice it left an impression on you. The impression does not have the capability, but we have surrendered to it. Let me explain. We allow our circumstances to change us. Some circumstances make us hard and bitter. Some leave us, sweeter than when we started out. Which one are you? You see, what happens is those situations that we encounter, when they leave an impression upon us, we take on that impression and we think that is who we are. When in actuality, it is simply an impression. Just like when you put the water in the ice cube tray, it takes on the shape of the tray. It didn't become the tray. It just took on the shape of the tray, but it maintained its own integrity. You have to maintain your own integrity so that whatever situation you find yourself in, Cyber, sorry, I gotta read that to you. Cyber says, if you don't like the glass you're in, just evaporate. Just evaporate. Why? You take on a different form. You go to the gaseous form, gas. But when you capture that condensation, you go back to your form that you want to be in. This is the thing. Look at the situation you are in. Is the situation changing you? Or are you remaining true to yourself in spite of the situation? This is the part of being like water. Be flexible so that you can be in any situation. You can go anywhere. You can meet and speak with anyone. Be flexible without losing who and what you are. This is the key. Go anywhere, do things, but maintain your integrity. What do I mean by that? Who you say that you are. That's what you're doing. So you see, the majority of our time goes in cultivating or learning ourselves. That's truly the thing that matters most. The self. You, the one looking into the mirror. That's what matters most. Who are you? Do you buckle under pressure, or can you see that pressure coming from a mile away and bend? So that means we develop self-discipline, meaning we spend more time watching and listening than we do speaking. This is, one of the reasons why that is so key. Because you get to A, know the sound of your own voice. B, you come up with phenomenal ideas. We learn how to generate beautiful ideas from that place of quietness. Some people have a hard time just even sitting there and doing nothing but breathing. Oh, that's so boring. No, that is the ebb. Remember the law of rhythm, the ebb and the flow, high tide, low tide. You stand in the ocean and it moves, it undulates, it pulls back, and then it comes forward. That ebb and flow. How do you know when a tsunami is coming? The further back it pulls. Because the law of rhythm tells you that it compensates. How far back that wave goes out is how hard and fast it has to come forward. That is compensation in the law of rhythm. Right? So inside the ebb, when it looks like nothing is happening, you're actually gathering strength in the ebb. Pay attention to the ocean. You learn how to make it work into your own life. Remember, the law of vibration says that everything moves, nothing stands still. So in the ebb, the wave pulls back. It gathers energy, and then it comes forward. So if there's no ebb, how can you sustain your forward motion? How can you sustain your activity if there's no rest? That's part of being like water. You have to know. Don't make me do it. You got to know when to hold on, right? The gambler. You got to know yourself. This is if you watch small children, especially when they tell you terrible twos. Why is it labeled terrible twos when in actuality the child is just beginning to come into an awareness of something? It's beginning to come into the awareness of causation. If I do this, my mother will freak out, or she'll give me a treat. The child is learning itself. It's learning how far it can go. But we don't see that. We label it, oh my God, terrible twos. When in actuality, if we would observe the child, What is it doing? So long as it's not putting itself in harm's way, you know the harm it does not. The stove, the stairs, the electrical outlet. All right? As long as it's not putting itself in harm's way, observe it, because it is learning itself and you get the privilege to watch it learn and experience itself. No, don't go there. You come stay with me. Sorry. So you understand. Take your time to observe the situation that you are in. Because when you observe the situation, you are in an ebb. But in that ebb, you are learning yourself. You are learning yourself in the ebb. You are learning yourself so that when you encounter a situation, you say, oh, I know how I am. I know how I'll be in this situation. That is what we do. That is what we do. We learn ourselves. We learn. See, even when you observe the other person in the rooms with you, in your workspace, your house, even when you are observing them, you are learning you. You are. You're only ever learning you. And when you know you, you can comprehend someone else. Let us take a moment, shall we, to welcome everyone into the space. I see you. Come. I don't want to stress her out. Anyway, Twitter. Lilith, I see you, honey. I know Jeff was here too, but I know he's also working. But I see you, my beautiful Lilith. Thank you for being here on Twitter. Fan base, who's here? Boricua? Boricua baby? Nice to meet you. I've never seen you or said your name before. Welcome to the space. Shani Creates. Welcome to the space. I see you. KZ. Flow Smiles. Baba Bonatu, Comrade L. Summer Rose. My Melanin. Miss McQueen. Zola. You know whose name we didn't sing this morning? Yolanda. We didn't say her name this morning, but she's here in our mind. Indy was actually here on Twitter this morning, so she's not on Facebook. But who's in YouTube chat this morning? The Better Man. I see you. Cyber. I see you. Goddess, Pure Diamond, Marjorie, Sugar Visions, my girl in two places. Joaquin, I see you. Those are the people who've made themselves known in the chat. For the replay gang, I also see you. Cyber, so water is I am and the container is the state? Yes. Yes. You see, the law is so beautiful, right? In that we see correspondence all around us. The next time you pour a glass of water, you will remember the law of correspondence. As above, so below. Mentally, you are water. Physically, you've just poured some. How does that water behave? When you boil it, when you apply pressure, it simply changes form. Why does it change form? It changes form to match the stimulus, right? Which tells you what? The situation that you're in, but it's still water, because if you catch it as steam, it's still the water. The condensation, it's still the water. Which means it is flexible to the stimulus without losing its self and its nature. When you freeze it, you just put it in an ebb state, a slow moving state. But take it out and it goes right back. How does it go back? It goes back to what it always is. You can't go back to what you're not. So you see, Begin to look around you. People say, well, you're not a tree. You can leave. Right? But still, you will grasp the concept of the law of correspondence. What is that water like? What are you like? We learn from the things around us in nature. We have the elements. Perhaps tomorrow, because it's Friday, we'll talk about fire. Who knows? We'll see. Right? That's what I want to leave you with this morning. Being like water is not a weakness. How many things have fallen under the weight of water? What do they tell you about that boat? It sits on top of the water. But if it is compromised, if the boat is compromised, it is vulnerable to the water. But so long as the boat is secure, the water doesn't have an effect to sink it. It will be buoyant. It will float on that water. So what does that tell you? You are sure of yourself, then your external cannot break you. That's where I'm going to leave you with this morning, to ponder things. To ponder things. True, cyber, you're correct. It does expand. It does. But thaw it out, it goes right back to what it always is. It is flexible to the state without being compromised by the state. Not as in a place that you live, but the circumstance. It's always flexible. We too, you notice, water is telling you because you're flexible, it doesn't mean you compromise your integrity. Notice water is saying that to you. It's flexible. It fits any circumstance. A cup, a jar, the ice tray, it'll do it. But it does not lose. It does not compromise its integrity. So for us as people, we can go into any situation, but we don't have to compromise. Think about how many times we've compromised, and then at the end we say, oh God, I feel horrible. Why? Because you compromised what you actually were. Instead of staying true to self, we compromised the self. You're never supposed to compromise the self. Who is the self? I am. That's you. Remain true to you. See, but we've allowed the way we were raised, our culture, our religion. See? We changed to match that. What if, now hear me, I'm not saying right or wrong in any situation. I'm simply making an observation. I'm only making an observation. We allow ourselves to be molded and shaped into something. And then when it comes time for us to know who we are, we can't always see it because it has taken the shape of the thing instead of being what it should be. This is why in Catholicism, they have a very popular saying. You start out being Catholic between 0 and 7. You're Catholic for life, they say. And they say from 0 to 7, I'll show you the man. Because all of that behavior is programmed right in there from 0 to 7 or 8. But now the person has been molded and shaped into something without having an opportunity to know its own shape and self. And because it doesn't know its own shape and self now, it thinks that the thing it is what it is. So what have we allowed to shape us? Have we allowed the words and opinions of others to shape us? Or did we just hear and, thanks for sharing your opinion. Opinion received. And we carried on. You see, the thing with knowing the self is this. When you see a behavior that you do not like in yourself, you have the capacity to change it. Right? But sometimes the eye is blind and we don't see the thing. We don't see it, so we don't know how to change it because we can't see it. So anytime you catch yourself saying, why does this always happen to me? Why do I make the same choice? That is your cue to observe the hidden habit that has been ruling you for quite some time. That's what it is. So let's get the bowl today, shall we? And I'll put everything out of my hands right now so I can get the bowl. Marjorie said something. Yes, Marjorie, yes. We compromise when we don't know who we are. She said that used to be her. Right? You see, when we're learning a new way, I don't even want to call it a new way anymore. When we're coming into the understanding or comprehension of what we truly are, right? Then we don't feel guilty. Because you'd recognize, oh, this is my true self. There's no need for guilt there. Because we're comprehending who and what we are. Exactly. That compromise. Water does not compromise. It'll take the shape, but it remains its H2O. It remains it. Because think about it. You either have boiled water, frozen water, or regular water. Liquid. But it's always water. Whether it is frozen, whether it is boiling, or whether it's just sitting in the glass, you have water. She is true. She is sincere. She is authentic. So we too have that same capability. Funny thing, somebody out there is asking, so what if we add sugar and salt to the water? Practice condensation. And you will separate water from sugar, water from salt. Chemistry 101. Right? Sometimes that's what I mean when I say whatever situation you are in, so long as you remain flexible, you will know what you need to become in that situation for that situation. So if it needs to become Kool-Aid, the water will become the Kool-Aid because you've just added the Kool-Aid to it. It becomes what you need it to become when it needs to become that thing. And the question now is, did the thing you add to yourself, did it dilute you? Did it weaken or did it strengthen you? That's the question. Did it make you better? That's. Whew. Let me get the bowl. I'm sitting here watching this chicken. She is something else. I know if we have any Bajans in the space. I didn't see any Bajans just yet, but we have a saying called one smart died at two smarts door. So she thinks she's smart, but I'm a little bit smarter than my chickadee. Yes, because I do have a pet chicken, for those of you who don't know. And I'm sitting right next to her. But anywho, she's trying to sneak away, and I'm like, girl, I can see you. I can see you. But I digress. Let me get the bowl, y'all. Let me get the bowl. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, Marjorie. Revising on the spot is necessary. Indeed, Mozinga, indeed. Indeed. So, Lilith, thank you for being here on Twitter, honey. Love you very much. I do. Thank you for being here. Twitter is closed. YouTube. Normally, we'd get the last remnants of gravy from the bowl, but today, I will spend a little bit extra time with fan base. You know, sprinkle the love around. Thank you for being here, everyone on YouTube. Marjorie, Mozinga, Scrolling Cyber, The Better Man, Goddess Pure Diamond, Sugar Visions, Joaquin. Thank you all for being here in the chat. I look forward to seeing you again. Much love to you all.